I'm about to leave Meriwether Lewis Park. If you're interested in what that is and what I did in the park, check out the previous video in this playlist. But we're back out here on the Natchez Trace this morning on a pretty cool morning. I got about 20 stops and about 75 or so miles. And then I'll be ending up just south of Nashville, ending my Natchez Trace journey. So let's get back on the road and see what we can find today. And located just about a mile north of the Meriwether Lewis Park is English Camp Creek. It's a little picnic area here. A very small parking lot. And it's my understanding just one picnic table. But I guess you could say the main attraction here is this pretty nice little cascading waterfall. Now, if you do plan on making a picnic here, enjoying that little waterfall, it's a little hike up the hill here to get to the parking lot. There's no stairs, no railing. This is a very basic parking lot. Some interesting rock formations here that were dug out when making the parkway. This is what's known as the Phosphate Mine area. And on the sign here it talks about there's 40 miles of area that is rich in phosphates. Now there is no sign notating this stop, but there is signs about halfway, or about a half mile, excuse me, to the site. Now there's a quarter-mile loop trail that takes about 5 minutes to get around. It takes you back to some of where the old mines were at, and some of the trail is part of an old railroad bed that they used when they were pulling the phosphates out of the mines. So we're going to walk back this way and see what we can see. And this talks about what is called the dinky line. Basically, it was miniature trains or narrow gauge trains that would haul the phosphates out of the mines. And what we're walking on here is actually the bed of those railroad lines. The sign says there's about 1,000 miles of abandoned lines in Tennessee. And this kind of tells you about the phosphate in this limestone. Pretty interesting. You just see the layers and layers of rock that was formed from prehistoric shellfish, if that's not mistaken. Now, just a little ways down the trail, it ends off right here. If you go off to the left here, this is one of the phosphate mines. Now, this mine is closed. They don't want nobody getting hurt or coming up missing in there. If you look down in there, it's not totally collapsed, but I bet if you were super skinny and pretty adventurous, you could probably get in there. Well, I'm super skinny. I ain't stupid, so I'm gonna stay out of that. So let's head back to the car and head on to the next stop. Now located on the side of this hill is Fall Hollow, and it comprises of 3 waterfalls. It sounds like I can hear them from the parking lot. Let's look right here. I can hear them, but I can't see them, so I'm going to go down some steps and stairs and see if we can see the falls. So there's some little trickling cascades as you come in around on the walkway. It'll be the first one we come to here. It's going to be the tallest one of them all. There it is. Now just past that overlook, and there's another one there. You can climb down to the falls, the second set of falls, or keep on going to another little set of falls here. This would be the third set, if I'm not mistaken. You cross over the stream and meander back down this trail here. It should take you to the bottom of the second and third set of falls. Hopefully I don't fall. So it was well worth that trek down that side to see this right here. And it looks like there's another waterfall right there, but I'll have to go down to that bridge down there to see it. So this is the base of the first waterfall that we saw. And it didn't look this big from up above. So from right here, it's quite impressive. This has probably been top 3 spots of my whole trace journey as far as nature and waterfalls, things like that. Highly suggest coming to this place. Highly suggest it. So this is the Swan View Overlook. And these trees have not been cut or trimmed down in quite a while. So there's not much to see. Kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. There's not even a marker telling you it's coming up on the trace, but there is a sign at the trace saying it's here. And if you need to throw some trash away, there's a trash can available. And that looks like it's it here. Nothing else. Just a trash can. This is the Devil's Backbone State Natural Area. This is I guess you could say a park. But really the only main thing here is about 3¼ miles of hiking trails. Now if you want to do the trails, it's going to take you about 1 hour and 20 minutes to 1 hour and 45 minutes. And overall it has about a 400-foot elevation gain to loss. And after yesterday's hiking I did at Meriwether Campground, I'm going to opt out of this one. So I'm done hiking for this trip, I do believe. Especially long distances. But if you want to come and really stretch your legs, come on out here to the Devil's Backbone Natural Area. There's lots of places to hike at. Now I am going to do a little walking here. If you noticed previously, there was a gate just beside the trailhead here. And it's a paved road. And I'm kind of curious to what's back here and what this could have been. Now, I know the Natchez Trace Parkway is right off to my right side. So I'm wondering if at one point this might have been some sort of campground area. Not sure. As the road tees off here, kind of looks like it just ends that way. But off to the right here, it goes back towards the Trace Parkway. And I want to say, according to Google Maps, it actually goes under the Trace. And there's a substantial sized hill off to my left, and a smaller hill that way to my right. Other than that, don't know why this is here. If you know why this is here, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know. This is one of those things that kind of intrigued me. Similar to that last section we were on yesterday with that old closed down roadside park, which I can kind of understand why it is closed, because it wasn't very safe. But I'm not sure why this is here. Maybe this road was supposed to connect to something else at one point. I don't know. There's a parkway right there, so I don't know. The road keeps on going. I'm not going to keep on going though. I'm going to go back to the car. I don't think you see anything back here, evidence of anything of the past that needs to be notated. So I guess that's my hiking for this part of the Devil's Backbone Natural Area. Well, the further and further north I get, I'm noticing the leaves are starting to change a little bit more. This is a section of the old trace. It's literally right here, 10 feet away from the parking lot. It's a section of the old trace. It goes off that way and goes off back that way. Now each way will lead you back to the Natchez Trace Parkway. And there looks to be a trail off to the right here. I'm gonna go up this way and explore. This might have been a section where one section of the trail got too muddy and they had to make two trails. I'm not sure. It's a good possibility. Or this could be a trail for something else. I'm gonna hike down it here for just a little bit and see what's down this way. So that was pretty much a loss of time. As you can see, there is posted sign, no trespassing, private property, on both sides of the trail there. So I'm not sure what's beyond those signs, but I'm not going to be trespassing and end up in some backwoods home with somebody playing a banjo looking at me funny on the front porch. So I'm going to head back toward the car and continue north on the parkway. Now I'm not sure if you can see off in the distance, right there is the signpost for this stop. The sign's missing. But this is the She-Boss stand. This is the location of the She-Boss stand. And one thing I've noticed getting to this area, the signs are different from the ones further south. A lot of the ones further south, you only have to get out of your car to read them, where these are more at an angle, and you kind of got to get out to read them. Even though that first one we just saw, you couldn't read it all. And this talks about the Trail of Tears. And the route the Indians took when they were removed from this area in the 1830s. Now, a little interesting, funny history of this She-Boss stand. How the name came about. Now, in order to have a stand on this land, you had to be Indian or married to one. Or a lady by the name of Cranfield was married to an Indian man. Now, he spoke very, very little English. So when the English-speaking settlers and travelers would come through asking about the services and the stand in general, he would point to his wife and say, "She-Boss, She-Boss." And it just stuck from there. Now, there's nothing else out here as far as I know of signifying where this stand was. This trail that we have already walked from beginning to end in less than a minute ends up on a Tennessee back road overlooking the She-Boss Cemetery. Now, one thing that Kentucky is known for, besides good whiskey, is tobacco. It was a very, very good cash crop in the 19th century. Now, once that tobacco was harvested, it was put in barns like this to dry out. The barns aren't weather tight. If you notice, they have large gaps in the boards. And as you can see here, they actually have some tobacco that is drying out. Now they would cut the stalks of tobacco and put them on long sticks. Now these sticks will be hung between the rafters where it would dry out over time. Now sometimes they would light small fires, smoldering fires inside these barns. And the smoke from those fires would have a process called, oh, I can't think of a name now, fire cured, I believe, where the little bit more heat in the smoke would change the flavor of the tobacco. And that process is still used today. There's an informational board that tells you a little bit about the tobacco. It says this burley tobacco was in here for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I'm not sure how long this tobacco has been in here, but I guarantee it's been longer than 4 to 6 weeks. So, but also around the corner from this barn is a section of the old trace that you can drive down. Now, it's a 2-mile stretch of one-way gravel roads that leads off down the original Natchez Trace trail, and that's what we're fixing to do. Now the Natchez Trace Parkway is just right for the woods there. The speed limit on that road is 50 miles an hour. I'm not even breaking 10 miles an hour. Just enjoying the trip for the woods. I'm in no hurry today. I'm enjoying this trip. I'm going down this trail. It really makes you wonder what the settlers and travelers had to go through in the early 1800s on their way from Natchez back up to Nashville and other areas. Climbing the hills, crossing the rivers and streams. Just something you don't think about too often. It's a pretty important part of U.S. history. Now coming to the end of the road, it's paved. But there's some bumpy sections in the back. If you get a car, you might want to take it a little bit easy through them. Now, shortly after the leisurely stroll for the woods on the Old Trace Drive is the Old Trace Walk. I believe it's about a 1/4 mile stretch of the original Natchez Trace. And it takes you about 10 to 15 minutes. So we're going to go a little ways down here. Not too far. Let's see what we can find on this one. Now it is a little bit sunken. Nowhere near as it was further down south. I don't think there's anything significant about this trail except for the fact that it's right there next to the parkway, and if you're coming from Nashville, it's not too far away. This might be the first time you can get on the Trace Trail from Nashville, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at my notes. But anyways, just kind of an interesting little stroll for the woods here. I started thinking, I got some, I call them house shoes, old leather moccasins. I got the house. I should have brought them with me and put them on and wear walking one of these trails like this, just to see how the settlers and travelers would feel back in the 1800s. The trail gets pretty overgrown, kind of leads into a forest here. Like I said, I don't think there's anything significant back here. Just a bunch of trees. So I'm gonna go just a little bit further, turn around, head back to the car. So this is Jackson Falls. We're at the loop underneath the Trace Parkway and go over there to that parking lot over there. Take a look at the falls over there in the hiking trail. And this is a very popular area. Probably one of the most popular areas that's not a campsite that I've been to my entire trip here on the Trace. Now here at the parking lot there is a picnic area and restrooms, but the restrooms are currently closed. But there is a 900-foot long trail off to the right here that takes you to Jackson's Falls. So we're going to head down here and see if we can take a look at Jackson's Falls. That's along the Duck River. Now this trail is mainly a concrete sidewalk along this deep ravine here, but there is a sign here along the way. I'm not sure if you can read that or not. But what it talks about is Jackson Falls is on Jackson's Branch, which we call a creek. Now the Duck River, which is just the other side of it, used to be two separate entities. Now the Duck River started to flood and erode away the land between the Duck River and Jackson Branch, and that's when the Jackson Branch entered the Duck River. Now with it being the end of summer and starting of fall, it's pretty dry right now. So I'm not sure if this is actually Jackson's Falls or not. Doesn't look like water has flown down this in quite a while. But we're going to continue down the trail here, and maybe there actually is waterfalls down this way. Now once we come to the end of that concrete path there, we come to Jackson's Falls. I don't know if I can zoom out far enough to let you see how far down we are from the top of this mountainside, I guess. If I was guessing, I'm going to say at least 75 to 100 feet below that point up there. And this right here is Jackson's Falls. Like I said before, we're in a kind of a dry spell, so it's probably not flowing as much as it could be. But it comes from there, makes a turn, and comes from that way. Not the most impressive waterfall by any means, surrounding areas. Definitely is. I was talking with some people down there. They're fairly local to the area. They said in the springtime, when the winter defrost and all that stuff starts happening, the falls run a lot more. But like I said, we're all kind of in a little bit of a drought down south here. So they said usually this falls are way more substantial. But either way, I enjoyed that. So when you come back out here to the parking lot, if you take a right there, that'll take you to our next stop. It's Baker's Bluff. It's about a mile or so hike, but we're going to drive over there. And here we are at the Baker Bluff Overlook. Now, some of the sightings and research that I've done said sometimes this gets overgrown. Well, luckily today it's not. You see quite a ways away across the valley there. This is the Gordon house. John Gordon and his wife lived here in the early 1800s, where he ran a stand, a trading post, and a farm with the blessing of the Chickasaw Indians. Now, this house was built in 1818 and is one of two original structures left on the Natchez Trace. Now the outside of this home has been restored to its former glory. With my understanding, the inside has not. That's why you can't go inside of it right now, because either they're trying to restore it, going to restore it, that sort of thing. Now the other original building that's left on the Natchez Trace is Mount Locust, that we looked at on my first video I did of the Natchez Trace. Now to the right side of the house is a trail, and this trail supposedly leads to where John's Ferry was at. Now, last time I heard, there was a bridge that was out and you couldn't cross the creek to where the ferry was, but we're going to go find out. Now, old John, he died a year later after he built this house in 1819. But his wife continued to run the farm until she passed away in 1859 by herself. I'm sure she probably had slaves and indentured servants helping her do so. But still, 40 more years she kept it on. Now, from my understanding, at one time, there's about 5 or so more buildings out here besides the main home. Now, a lot of times they would have the kitchen area away from the house in case of fires and things like that, so it wouldn't burn down the whole structure, because back then they had no fire departments. They were on their own. So that's why they kept a lot of buildings separate from each other. In case of fire, it wouldn't be a total loss. Now, I'm not sure how far I'm going to get back here, but this supposedly goes back towards where his ferry was that crossed the Duck River that we just looked at back there at the falls. So I'm gonna walk back here a little bit and see how far I can get and see what I can see. If I find anything interesting, I'll let you know. So that trail just basically led me to a power line with a fence here at the wood line. Bottom of this hill is a farmer's field, it looks like. If I'm not mistaken, the Duck River is off that way, if I'm not mistaken. So that's about where his ferry would have been at. And I'm not feeling too adventurous today to go back in there and see if I can find the location. So I'm gonna head back down the little trail here and get back in the car and continue heading north. Almost to Nashville. Got about 8 or 9 more stops to go. Okay, y'all, you can believe me if you want to, you don't have to. Now, right when I climbed that hill and got back on the trail, I stopped for a second. And I heard a male voice talking. Now, from where I was at to right there, you can see the opening of the trailhead. Maybe an 1/8 mile. I stopped and listened some more and looked to see movement or anybody walking around. There was nobody out here but me. Nobody. I couldn't understand what was said. It sounded like 2 guys talking to each other. Definitely weird. So back here at the Gordon house, I was just talking to a gentleman and his wife, and he says the trail to the ferry was through this field and across the field. Now I got some internet and looked up on Google Maps, and supposing the trail is through here just a little bit, off the right side of this field. Now this is the field that I came out on earlier. We're just on that back side back there. So I'm gonna follow this wood line right here and see if I can find the trail that goes to the ferry. And this looks like it might be it right here. It's a little bit of an indentation in the ground, yep. There we go. Okay. So this is the trail that would go to the ferry. It takes you to the Duck River. And as you can see, the footbridge is gone. And it looks like the trail would meander up through the woods, over that ridge, and down to the Duck River. So, kind of a disappointment. Didn't get to see where the ferry landing was, but at least I got to see where the trail went to, so. Oh well. On to the next stop. And also at the Duke Gordon house here is the informational plaque that tells you what you're looking at. Some of the sights and sounds you're going to see before and after the stop as well. Has some restrooms and a little bit of a picnic area. Overlooking the house back there. Well, that's quite unfortunate. Looks like I'm gonna have to go find me a tire. Uh-oh. Well, that set me back about 2 hours and $200. But I appreciate the ladies and gentlemen here at the Walmart in Columbia, Tennessee for taking good care of me. Now let's get back to the trace. I'm about a half hour away, so got a little bit more traveling to do. And got about 5 or 6 stops left. So yeah, I'll go ahead and fill the tank up and head on back to the trace. Now the further north we get towards Nashville, the leaves are starting to change colors on the trees more and more. There's lots of lighter green shades, some yellows, some dark reds. This is the Water Valley Overlook. As you can see, for quite a long ways. Not the best overlook I've seen, but it's pretty decent. Here we are at the Tennessee Valley Divide. Streams to the south will flow to the Duck River and Tennessee River, and streams to the north will flow to the Cumberland River. Now, if you're needing to stretch your legs, on the back side of the park here is parts of the original Natchez Trace trail. And there's a couple miles of trails that you can do if you so want to. Now, this is the Burns Branch picnic area. There's about 4 picnic tables and a hitching post if you're riding horses right here alongside of Burns Branch, or what we would call a creek. There's also parts of the hiking trails that you can see there if you're doing hiking. There's the old Trace and Garrison Creek and the Tennessee Valley Divide, which we just came from. And it looks like there's been some horses in this area. They let them go down there and get something to drink in that little creek. Very peaceful little area, but nothing much else out here besides the picnic tables. This is the War of 1812 memorial. It's a memorial of the soldiers that were killed and buried in unmarked graves along the Natchez Trace. Now, General Jackson and his troops actually stayed in this area on their way to New Orleans to fight the British. And this is the Garrison Creek picnic area. There's a pavilion, some restrooms, and hiking trails of various lengths, and it's pretty popular right now. Now, most of the Trace, the speed limit is 50 miles an hour, with the exception of a couple parks and roadside stands and things like that. This section right here, the speed limit is 40 miles an hour as the road gets more windy and twistier and hilly. Definitely getting into the mountains now. Now, the last stop on the Natchez Trace Parkway before you get to the northern terminus is the Birdsong Hallow Bridge. This bridge was constructed in 1995 and was the first concrete double arch segmentally constructed bridge in the United States. Now, this bridge is 155 feet above Highway 96 here and spans 1,572 feet. And one last unfortunate statistic. There's been about 45 people that have jumped to their death from this bridge over the years. quite unfortunate they had to put these fences up. I'm sure these fences have saved quite a number of lives. Never give up, people. Never give up. Well, here we are. This is the last roadside park when heading north on the Natchez Trace Parkway. This is the first stop you see when you're coming from Nashville. And about 4.2 miles that way is the northern terminus. And that's where I'm going to end my journey on the Natchez Trace Parkway. "444 miles. Here I am at the northern terminus of the Natchez Trace Parkway. My journey is now complete. It's been a great journey, a fun journey, educational journey. Appreciate everybody watching along with me. Would I do it again? There's no doubt about it. With the exception of the tire and the bad weather, but we can't win them all. But anyways, like always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.